It's bourbonblog.com. And as you know, we continue our St. Patrick's Day celebration because last week was St. Patrick's Day. I love Irish whiskey, and there's so many to tackle, like this revived brand, McConnell's. It's Sarah Kennedy. She's the whiskey ambassador for McConnell's, joining us live from Belfast. And I've really been enjoying this whiskey, Sarah. It's really nice stuff.
Yeah, did you have a good St. Patrick's Day?
I did. What did you do? I bet you did so much for St. Patrick's Day.
Well, it was almost it's one of the biggest occasions for Irish whiskey, of course. So it was almost like a 3-month plan for St. Patrick's Day. It was like Christmas. It was like the build up to Christmas. And it was incredible. I mean, the whole week was packed out with events and activities.
Right.
And planning and running around and working hard too. So it all paid off, and we had a great time. The night before St. Patrick's Day, we had an event in Belfast, and then during St. Patrick's Day, a few drinks out in the city, and just actually had time to enjoy what we had done. Right. Previous to that and all of the planning. So it has been great, and it was really nice to see on social media too, just all across the world, people enjoying McConnell's Irish whiskey. It was really exciting for us.
Oh yeah, and I think from what I understand in Ireland, more people had traveled there than had been, of course, during the pandemic the last couple of years. There were celebrations, so many everywhere in Ireland, wasn't there?
Yeah, I mean, we haven't had a real St. Patrick's Day in 2 years, because we've been celebrating from home for both of these. So it was the first time that we were able to get out and celebrate St. Patrick's Day. And the people working behind the bar were just so excited to be back working because the atmosphere is incredible. I know that over in America and the States, like it's celebrated just as much as we do, but like it was just incredible to see. I was around the city and there was such a buzz and everyone was getting involved. It wasn't just, young people, old people. It was everyone. There was kids there. It was fantastic. It was such an atmosphere. So I had a blast.
I'm so glad. And what a great thing you all have done, because you've revived this brand during really the pandemic the last couple of years. Delicious whiskey with quite a history. Tell me a little bit about the history of McConnell's, and then tell me about your history, how you got involved and what you all started doing there to launch this brand.
Yeah, of course. So as you know, Irish whiskey has a huge history, but Belfast as well. It has a massive history with Irish whiskey. At one stage, it was the biggest producer of Irish whiskey on the island before Cork and Dublin. And it's just crazy to say that there is no distillery at the minute in Belfast City. So if you look at our history of McConnell's, it goes back to the McConnell's family. And back in the 1700s, the late 1700s, there was professions like spirit grocers and, spirit dealers. And that's what the McConnell's family would have been back in the 1700s. And that's where the brand being established in 1776 comes from. Wow. But whenever John and James were born, so John and James McConnell, they built the J&J McConnell's distillery and a brewery in Belfast in the mid 1800s. So before that, the production of McConnell's was a lot smaller, but because of the demand of Irish whiskey and the demand of McConnell's on the brand, they built a large production distillery called the Cromac Distillery in the Ravenhill Road in Belfast. And they traded right up until the mid 1900s. So there was many different stories, and there's a lot of stories and legends and fun around Irish whiskey, and also around Belfast City. If you come and visit, you'll see Irish whiskey literally on the walls. All the art, you'll see the old bonded warehouses in the city, and McConnell's was really at one of the front of that. They had 5 bonded warehouses around Belfast. And they had one right in the city centre of Dunbar Street in Belfast, and it had 500,000 gallons of Irish whiskey that was being stored in that warehouse. And one night there was a fire and it completely destroyed all of that whiskey. So that's 500,000 gallons of Irish whiskey, which back in the early 1900s was around £250,000 loss to them, which would be huge money these days.
Yeah.
And it really devastated both the insurance companies in the area and also the distillery itself. But they did keep trading. They came back strong. They put a lot of media out there saying, we are going to come back. We have 4 other bonded warehouses. Our distillery still intact. And they did. They traded right up until the mid-1930s, which is unfortunately the 1920s is whenever you had prohibition hit, and that dramatically affected a lot of the Irish whiskey market, and the export market basically disappeared for America.
Yeah.
So the brand did go away. It closed its doors in just the mid-1940s completely, and was completely wrapped up. And the only thing that was left about the brand was some of the old memorabilia, some of the old mirrors, and a few of the old whiskey bottles, and some people kept their bottles. So it did kind of go into the history books at that stage. And then we revived the brand 2 years ago in March 2020, and we're going to make history again.
And now you have. I mean, this is really great. You all revived the brand. It's beautiful whiskey. You revived the brand during the pandemic. I mean, the plan was always to launch the brand, but it happened. What was that like too? Because here it was, you could only reach people like this. How was that as far as for you?
Yeah, well, the pandemic was global. Everyone was impacted exactly the same. So that was what was unique about the situation. But we did launch in March 2020, and we had a lot of plans for different trade shows, travel, events. We had all of these wonderful launch parties, and it just was put on a halt because 2 weeks later we were told to stay in our homes. So getting together was out of the question. All of the trade shows were completely cancelled, and we just had to figure out what we were going to do next. I actually didn't start officially until the summer of 2020. Right. And that's whenever there was kind of some opening up, some ideas about opening up. And we came out of the first lockdown, but we did have maybe 3 or 4 lockdowns. But we came out of the first lockdown, and that was whenever we started reconnecting with the on-trade premises, being their bars and restaurants and hospitality. But we also really had to focus on the retailers and the off trade where you would purchase the whiskey as a consumer for consuming at home. So there was a lot of work to do in that category. And then also, as you know, podcasts, online, social media, Instagram Live, everyone really connected on social media. And it was the perfect time for us to really do the whole enjoy whiskey from home, the at-home experience, tasting events at home, also, how to drink your whiskey, educating people on drinking cocktails, on how to sip it neat. It really was a fantastic time for us to really get to know our consumers and know where we want to be in the market. And then now, because of all that work that we've done over the past 2 years, now that we're coming out of the pandemic, and now that we're reconnecting and traveling again, we know more about what we are going to do, and we know who our customer is, and we know who we are as a brand also.
So you get to know the consumers in a real big way, what they liked about the whiskey. That's cool. I mean, it could work in some ways to your favor to have that kind of time with them. By the way, I put up, people probably have seen the Instagram for McConnell's Irish Whiskey. That way they can follow it. And also, you have a really great Instagram as well, which is McConnell's Whiskey Sarah. What do you post there? You post all kinds of things about your experience.
I mean, my Instagram, it is me. It is me and the brand, and it is me what I do with McConnell's. But it's kind of just giving people an insight to what I do.
Right.
And I mean, like everything, Instagram does show the fun bits. So, there's a lot of work that goes on in the background. It's not like I'm just out drinking whiskey and having fun every night. There's a lot of work goes into the things that I do, but I do like to celebrate on my Instagram. I like to show people what I'm doing. I also love to show people outside of Belfast what Belfast is, and in and around the city, and like to update them on little fun facts. And just connect with people. I mean, people constantly contact me with questions, and I'm happy to answer questions. I'm very accessible and friendly, so don't worry if you do have any questions, just drop me a DM and I'll happily answer them.
Yes, I see you posted a lot of the great places you've been. as you've been traveling again to places like the Dubliner and New York and just all the great things and cocktails too. Cocktails.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well,
this is a great whiskey for sipping, but what do you
it's
like?
great.
What cocktails do you like making with
I'll
cocktails?
maybe just chat slightly about, the whiskey first,
Go
because
ahead, please,
I mean
please do it. Yeah,
it's a wonderful blend. It's a
yeah,
blend of Irish malt and Irish grain
it's
whiskies.
so good.
Yeah, yeah. So it's in this wonderful packaging,
I
but
love the
it also
packaging.
is a fantastic liquid too. So it's 84 proof. So it's slightly higher than some of the Irish whiskey category blended market. It's also aged for 5 years instead of the 3 years that is
Right.
needed to be an Irish whiskey. So it's aged
Yes.
for 5 years in first fill ex-American barrels, so American bourbon barrels. So you do get a lot of bourbon influence on the palate and on the nose as well. If anyone's drinking along with us tonight,
Yeah, I hope you are. Tell us down below if you are drinking along. We hope you are. So it's is it all ex-American or first fill?
So it's first fill ex. I mean, I'm just getting tongue tied saying that, but yeah. So after the bourbon comes out of the barrel,
Right.
we put our whiskey in for 5 years.
Right.
I mean, the Irish market is
Beautiful.
We can put our whiskey into any wooden cask, so
Right.
we have a lot of room for experimentation, and we also purchase a lot of the ex-bourbon casks, and you've the cognac casks and wine casks. It's incredibly diverse what you could do with Irish whiskey in terms of finishes also. But you do get some of the bourbon influence on the nose.
Yeah, I see that there's some nice vanilla there. There's some really nice fresh flavors and
the
notes.
spiciness too. You get a slight spicy note at the end.
It's really lovely. And again, this is malt and grain both.
Yes. So it's approximately a 40-60 split. So it's a 40% malt, 60% grain.
Wow.
And so you do get a lot of the malt influence on there, like a malted cake.
Yeah. Yeah, this is nice. Is this the recipe that had existed in the pre-prohibition era in this originally, or is this?
Well, if you look at the Irish whiskey category as a whole, there isn't a lot of data is the wrong word, but records. So there's not a lot of records of what the mash bills were in the past. I mean, not many distilleries kept exactly the same mash bill throughout their course of production. A lot of them would have changed it depending on tastes and trends in the market, costs, everything changed very rapidly in the Irish whiskey market. And there are a few old mash bills out there, but the McConnell's mash bill, we don't know what that is. There is one bottle in Belfast that is still intact, and
oh wow!
But it is owned by basically a big Irish whiskey collector, and he has a number of premises in town, the Duke of York and Friend at Hand. He has a whiskey museum, and he's very precious over it, and rightly so. So we don't know what's in that bottle, but what we have tried to do is the Irish whiskey, the blends, the traditional Irish taste on a whiskey. You do get lighter notes, crisp, fresh apple notes.
Oh yeah.
So you get like an appley on the palate, but you also get the peppery spice that you get there. So it would be very hard to know exactly what the mash bill was in the past.
Oh, right.
But we've tried to stay with the trends in Irish whiskey market, and we have tons of years ahead of us for experimentation. We actually have a new expression coming out very, very shortly. And I'll talk more about that another time, but it will be and different casks that's used. So it will show you what you can do on the cask, how the cask influences the whiskey and how it changes. And
so
also
it will be this whiskey, but a whole different cask.
So it will be aged in bourbon, but finished in another cask. So the market would traditionally have aged whiskeys. I mean, in bourbon or in a an oak cask, but then the finishing your product is very popular here in Ireland. So you can finish it in a ton of different casks, but it's got around 8 months in this new cask, and it's got a higher proof too. So it's a 46% ABV there, so it's 92 proof, higher. and it's a bit spicier. But you'll when you taste the two beside each other, you'll be able to see what influence that the cask gives after it's out of the bourbon cask and it's in a new cask. And that's just a little bit of innovation that's going on in the Irish whiskey market at the minute, and tons of, and the Scotch market also.
That is cool. We'll be excited to learn more and taste that. What in the next this year, maybe
in the next few months we have the product. Yeah, next few months. It's ready. It's bottled. It's ready to go. We just need to get it shipped and get it to our suppliers over in the States for you guys, so that you can try it. But for now, this whiskey, our
so good.
blend is
good,
wonderful. But as you said, it's very versatile, and you can sip it neat. It's a whiskey that you enjoy with friends, and it's sociable. But you can also have cocktails and serves. So long drinks like ginger ale, having one of our signature serves is ginger ale just with some orange bitters and served with an orange wedge, which is slightly different than having it with lime and Angostura bitters. Then we also serve it in an old fashioned that is called the Belfast Old Fashioned, and it's actually made with Irish whiskey instead of bourbon. It's orange bitters and sugar cane syrup instead of demerara sugar, and it works really well just with an expressed orange on top. And obviously the traditional Irish coffee works incredibly well with a whiskey. And we have the Dunbar Street Sour as well, because the whiskey sour is very popular, and it's named after that tragic fire that we had in Dunbar Street. So it's more of a celebration cocktail. But cocktails have played a massive part in what I do what I have done over the past 2 years also.
Cocktail creation, getting the word out there. You've done such a good job. And as I taste this, some beautiful creamy notes. I mean, you have the fruit, like the apple. It's real fresh fruit, creamy. It has just a lot going on. And it's really a beautiful Irish whiskey. That is it. In most markets in the U.S. have this now.
Yes, I'm nearly sure we're in all 50 states now. Yeah. So we are available even in the closed states. And if you go onto our website, we have a store locator too. So it's really helpful if you want to find a bottle near you. And it's a very affordable whiskey. Now, I don't want to talk too much about price on here because it can differ in different markets. But it is very affordable.
It is a good price point.
Yeah, it's a great price point. And also, tasty. Yeah, so you're getting the 5 years too there. As I said, it does have longer in the cask, and you can feel that because it is a little bit more complex, and it lingers on your palate and has that lovely spicy note at the end. But McConnell's and the history of the brand, I mean, we have just some fun stories that we tell in that our whiskey, even if you look at the spelling, if you're an Irish whiskey connoisseur or whiskey fan in any way.
SKY, isn't it?
Yes. So we don't spell it with the E. And I mean, I'm constantly getting messages sent to me on my Instagram, or I'm getting, people saying to me, God, you spelled the Irish whiskey wrong. And I even get people correcting me whenever I send them marketing material that they change it. And I have to change it back to make sure that it's right. And the reason for that is because Irish whiskey without the E is how it was spelt in the past.
Okay.
Ishkabaha is basically, the water of life, which is Irish, the water of life, and it's for whiskey. And that sort of like changed to like iski, like dialect changed and terminology changed, and it turned into whiskey. And it was spelled whiskey without the E. And that introduction of the E actually came later, like further on from that.
Right.
It was more in the 1800s that was introduced by.
The E was added for Irish.
Yes, so it would have been not so much a marketing tool, but it was a way to differentiate themselves. And there's lots of stories and myths and legends, and even what I'm saying now is not 100% correct. No one actually knows the truth about why or when this was introduced. But it was previously just whiskey without the E. And because McConnell's is such an old brand, they never adopted the E into Irish whiskey. So we didn't want to tamper with the history, and we just wanted to keep it spelt the way that all of the memorabilia was spelt, all of the mirrors, and then also to make sure that we're honouring the history and the past of McConnell's. And there is no rule in Ireland to say that you have to spell it with an E. It can be spelt with or without an E. And there's only one other brand on the island that spells whiskey without the E. So we're only one of two.
So you put it out. It's something good to be remembered for.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. It does become, especially when you work in marketing and branding, and you're doing a lot of marketing material and printables and magazines, because people try to correct you so much, and you just have to say to them no, then send in a little story.
Because they're Googling, should I spell Irish whiskey with any, like, oh yeah, you should. Then like, no, you shouldn't do it this time.
Yeah.
No, that's great. It's such a fun product, and the bottle too. There's so many little bits on the bottle that even they're the in the middle.
Yeah, the label is the old label. We haven't changed the logo very much from the past. So the Harp of Erin is used, which is
yes.
Yeah, it's a much loved symbol in Irish history. It's used for many different things.
Right.
And just a quick Google search would, I'm not going to go into all of the things that it was used for in the past, but it was used for many things in the past. And we're really proud to have the Harp of Erin.
Harp of Erin on there, yeah. And the other pieces are what? The crown and the.
So there's the crown, and then that's our trademark logo, basically, which is the MCC, which is very similar to what the MCC was back whenever the John and James had their marketing material and their mirrors and mirrors. It's just slightly touched up, a bit more sharp than what it was in the past. But we have kept our logo. The fonting is exactly the same, and the spelling of Irish whiskey. We have changed our bottle shape, though. Our bottle shape is very interesting.
Serious bottle. It's heavier than most like whiskey bottles. It's bold. Serious.
It has a ton of glass in it.
Yeah.
And actually, the bottle here, which is a 700 mils for the European market, actually has more glass in it because the bottles are the same size. It just has So it is quite a heavy bottle. But it's also shaped, if you turn it on its side, like a pill capsule. Like a painkiller or a paracetamol or whatever.
Right.
A pill capsule. And the reason for that is down here at the bottom where you have Restoring the Legend. You have little bits of narrative here, but in the past that was on the old bottle, but it was actually 3 doctors and they recommended our whiskey. So it was, I know it's such an Irish thing.
I love it. That's great.
Doctors recommended the Irish whiskey.
They probably still do in Ireland, don't they?
Maybe.
Let's hope.
No comment there. But so we weren't able to put those lovely statements on the bottle.
Oh, that's cool.
Anymore. So we put our we shaped our bottle like a pill capsule, which I think is very interesting.
I love it.
We also have a long history of shipbuilding in Belfast. We built the Titanic, and this badge here is a nod to the shipbuilding and the docks in the city. So it is a very beautiful bottle.
It really is. So much history, and is there a photo up someplace of the original bottle we can look at? There probably is.
Yeah, there's one on my Instagram.
I'm gonna have to
there's yes. I'll send that to you so you can share it. You'll see what I mean. The label is very, very similar. We haven't changed much about the label, the green label, and then the 3 recommendations are on the bottle. So you'll see what I mean too. It's quite interesting.
Yes. So, and again, so much ahead for McConnell's. You have this new expression that's coming out in a few months. We'll be telling everyone about that on bourbonblog.com. You have so much ahead everywhere you're growing. Again, I want to put the Instagrams up here one more time. Follow McConnell's Irish Whiskey. Remember, without the E, the SKY on the end. And then Sarah posts so many great stories, cocktails, all the places you're going. You have a lot of fun. Where are you headed next, by the way? Where are you going to be going?
It's been quite interesting because I was in Berlin for a trade show just before Christmas, and then I was actually in New York 3 weeks ago. It was my first trip to the States,
Oh,
so I'd never been to America
how did
before.
you like it?
Oh, it was incredible.
Good.
It was very busy. People were just so busy all the time, which is grand.
You helped them slow down with some whiskey. That's good.
I was talking a lot. People love to hear me speak over there, so that was fun. And that was great going over there. So now I'm back. The next trip that we have actually is just down to Dublin for Whisky Live. We have a whiskey festival in Dublin.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and then we're going back to Berlin later this year. I will be back in America in September. Don't know exactly what state yet, but it won't be New York again. It will be another state. And I'll be in Holland this year too. So
nice. You're going to be everywhere spreading the good word. It's the whiskey's all over the world, so you're going to be spreading the word, and so much to look forward to. So much more to come with McConnell's that we can be watching for. We
have a distillery. We're building a distillery here. As I said before, Belfast was a huge city for Irish whiskey, and at the minute there isn't a distillery in our city, which is crazy. So
will you be the first new one?
Yeah, well, there is one other distillery that's in plans to build the distillery too. We want to bring back the distillery culture to Belfast. Right. So we could be first, but we're both kind of, doesn't really matter who comes first, but we will be bringing that tradition back to the city. And we could be first. We're hoping to open in the summer of 2023, so that's only 1 year away, really. And whenever we get that, where we have that distillery, it'll be right in the heart of the city. It will be in an old Victorian building that has a lot of history attached to it. And also we'll have a visitors attraction and tourist center and blending room and cocktail experience. So it will be more than just an industrial distillery. It will also be massive for the tourist industry here in Belfast too.
Wow. That'll be, it helps tourism. It helps everyone. We will really look forward to seeing that happen in 2023. There's so much ahead, and this is great. I'm so glad to meet you, Sarah. This whiskey's lovely. It's so much fun chatting with you. And again, McConnell's Irish whiskey, and a little bit, again, I like the fact that it's higher proof too, 42%, 84 proof. There's so many good Irish whiskeys out there, but most of them go for that 40%.
Yeah, well,
higher. Why did you do that? Why was that decision made? Any idea what that?
Yeah, of course. Well, I mean, there's a lot goes into the blending process, because obviously the single malt industry is big, massive too for premiumization, but the blended category is huge. And you have to play around with blends to make sure which one fits right. So the ABV plays a part in that. You don't want it to be too heavy for your core release, this is our core release. It's our original product. And a lot of people do go for the 40% ABV whenever they're bringing out their original core release. But when you have that extra 42%, you can tell the difference. We tried it with 40%. It was tried with higher ABVs. But the 42% just works really well with this particular blend. The next release, as I said, will be a higher ABV, which will be 46 as opposed to 42. And that just adds to the complexity again. Plus, we're premiumizing the product slightly, and the price point will be slightly higher too. So we're expanding our category, and in the future, we'll have the potential for cask strength whiskies, higher proof whiskies. There's a lot you can do with the category, but this core product being 42%, it just gives the consumer that little bit extra. It adds a bit of complexity to the whiskey, and you can tell even the mouthfeel of the whiskey is a little bit fuller.
It is. It has a great mouthfeel.
Exactly. Because if you compared them side by side, whenever it was 40%, you would notice the difference. And as well, we do want to give the consumers a bit extra. We were trying to be a little bit extra. We have the 5-year-old statement on the bottle, which not many of the category would put an age statement on.
They don't usually do that, do they? They don't have an age. Very few have an age statement like this, right?
Yeah, on the blends, usually it would be on their single malts. I mean, the blended category is becoming more popular for putting the age statements on. which is, it's good to see. You know what's in the bottle. But the 5 years also gives it a bit of consistency, and
Right.
make sure that, because our product is currently sourced at the minute, because our distillery isn't built, we will have our own products, and we'll be using our own liquid at one stage, and that helps keep having these guidelines like the 42%
Sure.
ABV, and having the 5-year statement on there, and also the cask selection gives consistency, meaning that we'll try to keep the product as close to what it is in the bottle for the consumer, and make our blend, much loved blend, and our mash bill the same.
It's great stuff. Again, it's so much fun to have you here as we continue celebrating, really, because many of us didn't get a chance to go out for St. Patrick's Day the last couple of years. So we're continuing this St. Patrick's Day Irish celebration a little longer on bourbonblog.com. What a beautiful whiskey. Is there a favorite Irish toast that you have to send us off here with?
Yeah, well, I'm a firm believer in the, I don't say, the old traditional, some of the speeches that people have, mainly because I don't really know them off heart, I'll be honest with you. So what I would just say is sláinte, which sláinte is just Irish for cheers. Or I would say cheers sometimes, and then you make sure that you hit the glass off the table before you drink.
Touch the table. Cheers.
And always eye contact as well. You have to give the person eye contact, or else it's bad luck.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Sarah. Cheers. And thanks, everybody, for watching this. Make sure you follow Sarah on Instagram there below. Cheers.
Cheers.